Cool, Sarah. I'm going to take over screen share here. And how long do I have, tell me?
You got 15 minutes.
15 minutes. That's generous. My team would say I'm long-winded, but okay. Can everybody see that there?
Yes.
Okay, great. But they just gave me a weird message. Of course, those kind of things always happen when you're presenting, but I think we're squared away here. So I'll start out by just talking about like laying the groundwork. You know, before you take off to build content in ChatGPT or any other large language model, I would encourage doing some legwork. I should also preface this with, I cannot take credit for all of this work. My team has helped me do a great deal of this. And, you know, I feel like I really just got them started and they have completely run away with this. ChatGPT is good at a lot of things, but it does fall short as some other things. So laying the groundwork before you get in there and start building is really important. The doc I'm sharing here on the screen is kind of our most rudimentary basic ChatGPT prompts doc. We keep this off the side and we use these as needed. We also have used these prompts to build the custom GPTs that I'm going to showcase in just a minute. I will say the majority of the work with the custom GPTs has been done by the team. This groundwork, this doc is something we worked on together. But this doc is more than just our prompts. We also have kind of outlined some other things it can do for us. And then we've also outlined what we feel like our tone and our voice sounds like at CRG. You know, depending on the size of an organization that you are, you may have a marketing team that you work alongside. They may be able to help you with some of this, or they might already have this established. But we think it's really important for our content to feel cohesive. For us moving into Opus, we were already in an existing LMS. So we knew making this transition, we wanted to make sure our content felt really cohesive, specifically from hourly training to salary training for people who might be moving up the ladder. So we took some time to kind of identify what our tone and what our voice sounds like. In our meeting yesterday with the directors, I highlighted, we actually recorded our CEO and kind of like used that to feed into what our content sounds like today. Because we hadn't really established this as an organization, so we kind of were starting on the ground floor with this. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could think about doing this, but we recorded our CEO as he talked about our mission, vision, values. He does that in a part of our new manager training, and so we recorded him, and we've used that to build this voice. Kind of one of the other things we did as we're building content is we wanted to define like, what is our Opus content going to look like? For us, this was important because we're building really quickly, you know, really quickly. And so before we're publishing content and sending it live to the field, we always want to gut check it against these content guidelines. But this is also information that we're able to supply to our restaurant teams. So as they're in Opus building content, they kind of know where we're headed, right? We find that when we don't give them direction, we end up with, you know, modules that have a ton of courses in them. And we were like, hey, we would have shrunk this down, would have done this a little differently, but we're able to give them some guidance here. And we can also feed this information to ChatGPT to help us build our content. We've even kind of defined like how many words fit on an Opus screen with the average picture. So there's no scrolling involved. We've really tried to eliminate scrolling. So we believe that kind of creates a cohesive experience through Opus and makes it look nice. But this document accompanies our prompts and has defined what our Opus content is going to look like. But I will say we use this too. So this isn't just for folks in the field. This is our gut check. And we even have to remind ourselves from time to time, we'll have a lesson published and we're like, how did this happen? And we moved too quickly and we realized we didn't gut check it against kind of like our own guidelines. So we find ourselves coming back to this a lot. Our next tab here, I'll go ahead and drop into ChatGPT. And we want to talk about ChatGPT in general, but I'm going to focus here on custom GPTs and maybe lightly touch on projects. It's worth mentioning, for you to get access to custom GPTs in ChatGPT, you will need to be on a Plus plan. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's still $20 a month. Hopefully it's not too hard of a business case for you to build in your organization for you to get a $20 a month subscription, but I can promise you it'll be some of the best $20 you've ever spent in terms of ease of use and access and just being able to get things done really quickly. Of course, we use this for all kind of things outside of just training content. I was like, before I pulled this up today, I should have scanned our history here along the side just so you guys could see if we were doing any really ridiculous or goofy things in here, but you're now seeing our history. But we do all kinds of things from like revising Slack messages to revising email messages. For you to access your custom GPTs, you click on the profile button up here in the top right hand corner, and you come down to My GPTs, and you can see here in this next screen all the GPTs we built. Maybe, why is that not wanting to load up? There we go. It dropped me into the new menu. One sec. Here we go. So on this screen here, you can see these are our primary custom GPTs that we've built. I would say you can see based on our history here, we're using 2 of these predominantly. We have one that we use for emails. These are particularly like longer format emails we're sending out to our restaurant teams. We're really intentional about how many words and characters we communicate to them in. We think that's like 300 words. So we're always trying to keep those messages as short as possible. That's our magic number. But then you can see our hourly content assistant here is the one that gets the most use, but this is a custom GPT that's designed to help us create hourly training content for Opus. And so it knows what we're going for in terms of number of screens and number of words. And to go through the process of creating a GPT takes quite a bit of time. I don't think we have the opportunity to do that today, but you can definitely do research on what it looks like. I can drop in here and show you just really quickly, like, you know, what some of the settings look like to configure this custom GPT, but you build these largely through a conversation with ChatGPT, right? So all the information it holds in here is stuff we've talked to it about in a conversation, that it's retained in memory, that it applies as we work to build content for Opus. So, but this one specifically is our hourly content assistant. Sarah, do you want me to pause at any point, or anything you want me to touch on that I might have missed?
I was actually going to say, I think that this is a good time to pause. I have another poll. Has anybody used a custom GPT yet for training purposes, or actually mostly a gauge experience, so even if it's not tied to training? Okay, awesome. Majority of us are no. I'm also no. I'm not on a paid plan for ChatGPT, but consider me influenced after this.
Yeah, and I'll make sure, assuming the chat's working for me, I drop my LinkedIn in the chat. I'd love to connect with anyone who has questions via LinkedIn or email. But we're in pretty deep here. We use these a lot. I mean, I would say we're at a point where we don't build any content without ChatGPT, and the question becomes for us, like, why would we? It just does such a consistently good job. Now, it's not perfect. We still do have to refine the content we build in ChatGPT. I think one of the things I'm always gut checking for outside of our standard content guidelines is just redundancy, you know, and because we're always trying to shrink as much as we can for our teams. We know that we get the best, you know, comprehension from them when we've shrunk that down to be no fluff and just what they need to know. So we're still gut checking the content that comes out of ChatGPT, but we do use this for building a lot. And we've even refined our prompts. One of our things we're experimenting with now is like, say it like a human would speak, you know, versus what ChatGPT would say, right? So removing hyphens and removing, like, you know, exaggerated language and really emotional language, and removing jargon, but those are all built into our custom GPTs that are part of our prompts. So yeah. Anything else here, Sarah?
Actually, do you mind going back to the CRG Opus standards doc?
Yes.
Second tab. Yeah, I wanted to zoom in here and actually kind of see how you've established your own standards on top of the content standards that we have in Opus. Actually, do you mind zooming in on, like,
Yes.
Yeah. Turning the perfect. Okay, great. So you're advising ChatGPT before it creates any content for you to add a due date, but you're also giving it context on what Opus is.
Yeah, I will say some of these things aren't things we prompt for, because, you know, like the due date for us is like, we're making sure we go back through, and if we're shipping it out, has a due date. And some of these things serve for us as reminders too, because moving off of our old LMS, things are different. So we're making sure we gut check certain switches and boxes are checked before we send content live. But yeah. We are pretty strict with questions every 3 to 4 screens. That really slows down the experience. We are pretty big on the 75 words per screen. That keeps this experience to like very minimal scrolling, things like that. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm a little bit of a stickler for it too. I don't like the scrolling pattern and then having to tap next. I think it's nice for the text only kind of adheres to that one screen, which is why the builder tries to contextualize it. So it's like, see is what you get. This is really, really awesome. And then on the general check-ins, if you mind scrolling down.
Yeah.
You've actually instructed it on how to create like a check-in.
Yeah, and once again, we have used this for prompting, but this is also just a gut check for us, because specifically as we're creating content for our directors in the field and they're doing validations or check-ins at the manager level, we try to provide them with guidance and answers. Not that they don't know the answers, but it just makes the conversation like that much more fluid when they're able to do a especially on some complex topics, like we're talking about prep sheets and what's the purpose of a prep sheet or things like that. We want to speak the same language and walk the walk. So if we can prompt them with some guidance, that just makes the conversation more fluid. So
yeah, this is also just like a nice like content checklist to make sure you're keeping your standards in mind while you're building.
Yep.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah.
And we just went through, I'll give you an example too. Like we used, I think the Opus default for a check-in is the check mark. And one of our directors gave us feedback last week. They were like, hey, the check mark, when we pull it up, like it kind of, your brain says that's done, even though like it's not done, because the check mark is like big in the left-hand margin. So we were like, okay, we will retroactively change all those away to a different picture. So
that's amazing. Okay, cool. I want to turn it over to the audience. Anybody have any questions or want to deep dive on like the first two tabs? Because I know we're going to go into how you actually apply it in Opus. Nope. Cool. Going once, going twice. All right, Charles, continue.
So the next three tabs I have here are just on some specific content we have in Opus. So we primarily build courses in one of three ways. We have found the Opus course builder to be really effective with two things. Number one, micro topics. So if we have like a really succinct topic that's very specific, where, of course, information is widely publicly available, it does a good job with topics like that. We've also leaned on Opus for the structure of courses. So one specific course I wanted to pull up here, I have three, and of course I forgot which order they're in, but this first course here is like a welcome to one of our concepts. And so of course we have one of these for each concept. The structure of this course as it exists today was built by the Opus course builder. And then we liked this structure so much, we applied this across all of our concepts. We then took, the first one it created as a basis point, and we've used ChatGPT to expand on that. But the structure of this course as it exists today came from Opus. And we really liked it, how it broke it down into the story, the ambiance, the influences, the experience, team responsibilities. So this specific restaurant is also beautiful, right? So it doesn't hurt that we have like really nice photography for this one too, but yeah. That's one use for it. For this same concept, we have a very specific micro course on sake and educating our team members that are hired into the restaurant on sake. And this course right here was 90% built by the course builder. So when we get down to topics like this, we find that it does a really good job. We still get a little wordy on some of the screens and we have to spread it out, but this course was 90% built by the course builder. Predominantly like we've changed up some of the photography. We've added this YouTube video here that talks about how to pour, but this course was 90% built by the course builder. So it got us most of the way there. And then last but not least, I have another course here. This is, as part of our manager curriculum, Kim Scott's book, Radical Candor, is featured. And this course was built entirely from ChatGPT. So I wanted to showcase three different examples there, but this is the one that was built entirely from ChatGPT, or at least that was where we started. There was no amount of the Opus course builder used on this one. So yeah, so that's how we kind of apply it.
This would have been a great topic to feature. Last month we talked about manager training, and I think a lot of the main premise was like, how do I build up leadership training or manager training from scratch? Should I buy it off the shelf? Do I need to work with like a consultant? And I think what we all realized is like there's a lot of context for how to do this online. So it's actually a great application for AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. Any questions? I want to make sure that I know this is really dense material and we're moving pretty quickly, but anything anybody want to focus on or double back to before we move on?
I think what Charles, you're really double tapping on here is that you have such a focused idea of what you want a course to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and so especially using the course builder within Opus, you can give it that prompt just like you would to ChatGPT or to any other AI tool, and it's going to really spit out exactly what you're looking for, especially when it can scrape, public information about radical candor or sake, as you had shown. Whereas I think sometimes with our module builder within Opus, that's more of like, I'm trying to ideate on something. I don't quite know what I'm trying to tease out of this PDF that I have, and I don't know exactly what I want it to look like. And so sometimes then the AI can get really wordy because it can almost sense that it's like, let me just give you some options. So I think what you're doing is helping to really focus the builder, which again, we know AI likes to just write too much. So thank you for, I think, showing like some of these specifics. It's really awesome to see how you guys are using it.
Yes, thank you so much, Charles, for coming to the table and showing us how you get it done. I want to move on to Mel's workshop, which means I need to just contextualize everybody one more time. Let me grab my slides. All right. If you have been to office hours, then you know this little diagram. We've worked around it every single session. It anchors Mel's workshop, and for lack of a better term, we just called it the design doc. Mel can give more context.
That's really what it is. I think knowing where you're jumping off from, having a framework is always really beneficial. And this is a really simplified version of what instructional design we call a instructional design document that really just helps to start anchoring like what is the program I'm putting together. So I figured we'd start with this and just wanting to continue to use this as a jumping off point. And then show how I take this framework concept and build out really specific prompts. And we'll have some prompts that we're going to share with you all. But really, this design document is typically more for larger training programs, as you guys know, those of you that have joined us the last couple of months. So some of these elements are not going to be as necessary, but I'll show you how to adapt them to a prompt to make sure that we're hitting on all of them. And first but foremost is the training methods on the bottom there. The training method for the prompts that we're designing today are meant to be micro-learning courses. So you'll see that the training methods, instead of being at the end where we're teasing out what we want this training to look like, goes to the very top. It's how we're going to prompt the AI. And then audience and training gaps are still a focus of our prompt, whereas our goals move into more focused learning objectives. So just to kind of tee it up before we dive into what I've got. And please chime in if you have any questions. I will do my best to pause where I can. Screen. Here we go. All right, can you all see my screen? Maybe. I'll make it a little bit bigger. So put together a couple of prompts here, a limited time offer prompt, a refresher quiz prompt, and if we get to it, we can also talk through an informational SOP prompt. But I usually prefer Claude personally. I just have a preference to it. But we're going to use ChatGPT today, as Sarah mentioned. And I actually use, for building, I use it for assessment questions probably the most when I'm building, because sometimes it can be really difficult to come up with plausible other multiple choice options. Sometimes you just need like a brain break for yourself and you need someone else to do the work of like, can you just tell me how I should synthesize this into a assessment that ties back to my learning objectives, all of those pieces. But we're going to start with the limited time offer AI prompt. So we're going to share these out after today's training. It's loose because, as we always talk about in these office hours, the more granular and contextual and specific you can get, the better any of your training is going to be. And that's going to be the same when you're prompting AI. So you'll see in these prompts, it's a lot of brackets saying, really dive in here, really specify what you're looking for, really tell someone who your audience is and what they do or don't know about this topic. Really tell someone all the information, feed it for your LTO, feed it that marketing information about your new banana strawberry milkshake that you're going to do, which is what I dove into, and I'll show you all that. Really understand what your training gaps are. I always bucket them into the 3 big gaps. There's more gaps than that, but those are the 3 that I focus on, which is a culture gap, a knowledge gap, and a skill gap. Here with an LTO, there's really a knowledge and a skill gap. I might not know what the LTO is, and I also don't know how to make it yet or how to sell it yet. And then instead of the larger picture learning goals, we really dive into specific learning objectives. What, at the end of this course, do you want your learner to have known? And those learning objectives tie directly back to your assessment. So this is where ChatGPT can do some of the work for us. I don't have one of the lovely custom ones in ChatGPT. Again, all of mine is in Claude, but I took that prompt and I broke it out. So this is our method. I need to create a digital micro learning course. This course should be 12 to 17 quick hit screens and should take the learner no more than 3 to 5 minutes. This course is for, again, our audience, get specific. Maybe it's for all of your team members. You want all of your team members to be trained on all elements of an LTO. I'm a believer that we should probably train the people on what they should know how to do to get started. So this course is specifically for our cashiers, our drive-thru team members, and our expo employees who need to understand about this new LTO item, and they need to know how to sell it. And then the focus and the context of this course is on our new strawberry banana milkshake. It's running for the month of May. I want my team to understand the basics of how to sell the strawberry milkshake and what makes it special. And again, I just decided that there are local strawberries from a farm. And then continuing to dive deeper, right? Like what makes our milkshake special? That's what I want to teach our teams about. And then I have 3 main and very specific learning objectives here. Understanding what makes the milkshake special, where to go for job aids, because we all know introductory courses, you're going to need to follow up at some point. So where can you go for more information about this down the line? And then how to sell the strawberry banana milkshake. And then I have, make me 2 knowledge check questions. And I would like you to focus them on the learning objectives, and I'd like for you to make 1 a fill in the blank and 1 a true false. So again, filling in for like how to build this within Opus Online. So we'll see what it spits out. So it's giving me the text that I can just put into each of my screens. It's really breaking it down step by step, which is really great. And you can copy and paste this, and you can also have that dialogue with ChatGPT as you go. Do any of you currently do this? Is this like table stakes? You all are already doing this and utilizing AI in this way? This is like, it just can do it for you, right? I mean, it's not perfect, but it at least is a jumping off point. If AI was perfect, we wouldn't have jobs. And that's kind of part of the love of this, is like, use it as a tool. One of my favorite sayings about AI is AI will not replace people. People that know how to use AI will replace people that don't. So use it to your advantage. And get really specific. Again, I knew I wanted this to create my method of training here that we've talked about in the past is an Opus course, right? So that's why I really focused on, please make me course by or screen by screen. I gave it really specific prompts.
Yeah, the screen by screen breakdown is pretty exceptional. But also, like, I think what we've seen with our customers is they've adopted Opus the way that we've implemented AI in Opus, which is through the module generator and the course builder. but also you can take it a step further and use ChatGPT as like a strategic partner before you even start to build the course. So it's a great way to brainstorm through your through the design doc to help think through like your framework of like, what is this really trying to teach? And then go into Opus and think like, okay, now what do I want the actual, tap experience in the app to feel like?
Yep. And we can get even more specific, if we had, I have in Claude, it's called like projects. I have a Claude project that I fed it a whole bunch of information about instructional design and all of those pieces. And so I can say, pulling from the knowledge that I fed you, make sure that this course flows in this way, that we do and like, it can really get really specific, kind of like what Charles showed, where it knows the voice, it knows your brand. And so that's how you can take this kind of the next step further. Eliza, so I see your note. How do you typically take this into Opus? So one, we're showing just tools outside of Opus. You could take this prompt itself and put it into Opus's course builder as a great way to get started. Or you can also ideate within ChatGPT. That's why we wanted to show ChatGPT today. You can ask it questions, say, I really don't love what you put on, or I really want you to combine screen 5 and 6. It's all about what all 3 of these roles should know, not individually what these roles should know. And you can ideate with it and then just copy and paste straight into a blank course in Opus. But that's what we wanted to really show this today, is like, that's what I'll put that in there. I don't love that roles are broken out.
Okay, Charles, polite.
Yeah. I feel like I always want to raise my hand, but I was just going to say, we also use it, Mel, for like, based on what you know about hourly team members or our audience, is there anything we've left out? Is there anything we're forgetting? Yeah. Like, I always am asking that, and it comes up with things that you're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea.
That's a great call out. In the AI workshops that Rachel Nemeth, our CEO and co-founders, hosted, her last step with any work that she does with AI is asking it for feedback. Mm-hmm. Just prompting it simply by saying, okay, based on what you know about this audience, like, what would you change about this course, or what can we do to take this first draft and make it better?
Mm-hmm. Mel, I think we had this on our original agenda and somehow I didn't talk about it, but also just using ChatGPT as a thought partner. You can ask ChatGPT to ask you questions. Like, when it's just like,
good reminder,
like inception moments, right? You're like, I need to build this for this audience. Ask me questions to determine like what should be a part of it and like what should be included. And it will ask you the questions, you answer the questions, and it will build based on your answers. I mean, so.
And again, this is not currently trained. It's only going to scrape what it can. But, can you help me? Like, did I forget anything? Is there anything that I should know based on good instructional design principles, right? To your point, Charles. But it combined those screens 5 and 6. It gave me more about any guest-facing role, the things that they should know versus breaking it down, which was really great to see. And then, I can just copy and paste these in. It's just a jumping off point. And again, I use AI a lot. The way that I use it a lot is more for quiz questions and helping you get really, really granular on what your quiz questions are. And again, how they tie back to your learning objective and help you think differently about assessment questions. I think we are getting close to time, so I don't want to dive too much into this, but I think the quiz question element is one that I would encourage everyone to play around with and to really lean on AI to be that thought partner with.
We'll be sharing this doc that Mel prepared in our recap so that you can play around with it. Let us know what you find. I really wanted to tackle AI in a way that was super, super specific to how majority of our customers actually engage with Opus. Something that we hear a lot about building content is that the default expectation is to find it off the shelf or to maybe say like, hey, in your marketplace, do you have a course for this? And we're actually trying to drive a lot of behavior toward enabling our customers to use the AI tools that we've given them or the ones that we know are the most popular. So ChatGPT was the first one that came up. Also in our L&D survey, that we ran where we surveyed hundreds of L&D professionals, ChatGPT was the number one. And I think it's because it's just a good partner.